and welcome to part 2 of our Tulip Time Tour aboard AmaWaterways AmaVenita. In this segment, we're going to finally find that chocolate we were looking for in Ghent, Belgium, and we're going to get a preview of Tulippalooza when we visit some castle gardens near Brussels. At our second stop in this segment, Antwerp, where we visit the Florilla Flower Show. But first stop is Ghent, Belgium, which is a city and municipality in East Flanders province of the Flemish region of Belgium. It is the capital and largest city of the province and the third largest in the country, with a population of around 265,000. It is an important port and university city for Belgium. But after a nice breakfast in the Journeys restaurant, we were on a bus and headed towards our stop of Van Heck Chocolate Factory. Previously located in Ghent, Van Heck abandoned the city for the countryside. Stepping inside, we started with a show about how chocolate is made, and to sample a few bits of the chocolate that is used in the chocolate making process. After that, it was time to step inside the chocolate workshop for the real deal. And after some more explanation and some demonstrations, it was time to get down and dirty with that chocolate. Molds that used to be metal are now plastic, and here you see Father of the Sun, who currently runs Van Heck Chocolate, effortlessly showing us how it's done. After filling with the molten chocolate, it is set on a vibrating table to vibrate air bubbles out of the chocolate, and then placed back upside down over the chocolate fountain, where the still molten center is vibrated out, leaving only the outer shell of the chocolate. Once that is done, the molds are cleaned off and the chocolate shavings added back to the mix for the next batch.
I bring it out and I put it in a warm room. What do you think can happen? Think about a bottle of water. You put it down.
Here's Song adding a little sweat equity to the end result.
Condensation, very good.
Sides, perfect. And then you can wash your hands. Perfect, thank you.
After the cleanup, it's time for the filling, and here's our Father of Chocolate showing us all how it's done. Once the filling is inserted, it's time to close it off with a little bit more chocolate. So back to the chocolate fountain we go. And a little more cleanup, and it's back into a blast chiller to cool it down and give us what we see and sample right here. And after 45 minutes or so in the workshop, it was time to set our sights on, well, you guessed it, chocolate. From this assortment, you could choose your own, pay up, and you could enjoy it later on. The small box cost around 18 euros, which is what we purchased, and the large box around 36. Now oddly, the current owner of the company, who took the money from Song, asked her for a tip for his mom and dad, who did the demonstration. She obliged, but sadly it left her feeling that the owner of the business was begging for tips. Well, back on the bus and passing more street art, and 1/2 hour later we were back at the AmaVenita. And while we could have, and should have, gotten on a shuttle bus and gone to downtown Ghent, we decided after a quick lunch to just chill out on board and tried to work with my broken editing system, alas to no avail, and then to just wander around the ship a bit. This is the library And here we found more of those decorations aimed at Easter coming up in 2 days' time. And after another wonderful meal in Journey's restaurant and a bit of carousing around, it was time to get ready for tomorrow's adventures in Antwerp. We pulled into Antwerp early in the morning, and once we had breakfast, we got ready for our 9:15 excursion, the Floralia Flower Show at the Kasteel van Grootbegaarden. The castle and flower show were actually closer to Brussels than Antwerp, and after a 1-hour bus ride, we arrived. The castle itself is a 12th century castle and was built for the first lord of Begaarden. The castle is surrounded by a wide moat, spanned by a 5-arched bridge, and protected by a drawbridge and 14th century gatehouse. The castle is built in a Flemish Renaissance style with red bricks, white stone windows, and a blue slate roof. The flower show takes place in the 14-hectare or 35-acre park surrounding the castle. There is a 4-story tower called the Dungeon, built in 1347, that stands at 98 feet or 30 meters high. While we were told you could walk up to the top of the dungeon, that turned out to not be true, as it was closed for repairs. But the star of the show is not the tower, it is the gardens, spread out over those 35 acres. When we visited in 2026, there were over 1 million bulbs planted and featured over 400 varieties of tulips, hyacinths, and daffodils. We managed to cover almost all of the grounds, and I'm going to be quiet for just a little while and let you enjoy the gardens. flower exhibition typically runs from early April to early May and is generally open from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. The interior of the castle is usually off limits as it is still occupied by a descendant of the Bigard family, Xavier Pelgrims de Bigard. The castle and the grounds are still privately owned by the Bigard family. After strolling about the gardens for an hour and a half or so, pulling up our raincoats because of occasional showers, it was time to return to the bus and back to the AmaVenita. What was the price for all this loveliness and those over 1 million flowers? Well, there are discounts for seniors and children, but in general, an adult who is not a senior is 18 euros. Less for children, and children under 2 are free. Now keep in mind, this flower show was only a primer for our big stop in just a few days where we would be faced with Tulip Palooza. After returning to the AmaVenita, we decided it was time to step out the door and do a walkabout of Antwerp. We first walked the river area where our ship was docked. And after enjoying the river area for a while, we decided it was time to step across the street and into the town center. Antwerp had hosted a rally race just the day before and was getting ready for a bicycle race through the streets of Antwerp. The downtown area was very crowded with tourists that were here for the races. We walked around a bit, seeing the cathedral. Some quirky artwork. Perused the rather high drink and cocktail prices along with food. Count on a minimum of 60 to 80 euros per person for lunch, and some of the rally cars that were in the race the day before. And no, these would not be the bicycles for the bicycle race. And in general, just enjoyed the vibe of hustling and bustling Antwerp. Antwerp is a university town, and as such they had these neat things. Sort of a mobile bar, where as long as you could pedal, you could get where you were going with the designated driver in control. I'm afraid if I was doing the pedaling, someone else would have to carry the major load after just a few minutes of drinking. Or you could step inside this castle-looking thing and go to the bar offline. No Wi-Fi, so you have to talk to each other and pretend it's 1969. So after about an hour and a half walkabout, it was time to return to the ship, indulge in a light lunch, and get ready for our afternoon sail away. That evening, after sip and sail, it was time once more for Journey's restaurant, where it was chocolate night. Yes, that seemed appropriate for Belgium. See our upcoming food and drink guide for more on dining aboard the AmaVenita. After dinner, it was time for some entertainment by local entertainers, La Strada. La Strada, as it turns out, is a consortium of performers who work as string trios, performing at different events. There are apparently several La Strada groups in work at all times. Our group was fantastic. Well, that's it. Get ready for part 3 of Tulip Time, and this time it's windmills in Kinderdijk and Tulip Palooza in Keukenhof Gardens near Amsterdam. Well, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new videos as they drop. And get ready for more tulips, more windmills, and our upcoming dining and drink guide, entertainment guide, and ship tour of the AmaVenita. Thank you for watching, and as always, safe and happy journeys from T's Cruise and Travel Muse.